Good morning, everybody. Patty Ann here. Hang on just a second. Today I've got something really fun to show you, and I'm really excited about it because I don't ever sell anything that I make, but for those of you who might be interested in selling things, this really might be a good tutorial for you to watch if you have the Silhouette Business Edition or a Silhouette machine. I'm not sure if you have to have the Business Edition to do this or not. You'll have to check into that. If you're going to check into it and upgrade or get the Silhouette Business Edition, use my link below if you don't mind. It not only saves you, like $50 if you go to my link rather than to the Silhouette store, but it also helps me to keep this tutorials and this little teaching session going, and I really appreciate it. So on we go. Here's the thing I saw today. Now, if you go to this website, you can purchase this file, a downloadable file, for $9. But I'm going to show you how you can make it today yourself. So, one other thing is I hope that you'll join our Facebook group. Look down below in the links. I have two different ones. One is strictly for Cricut, and one is for Cricut and Silhouette together. And the one that's for the Silhouette and Cricut together, I've got a question up there about how much you'd be able to sell a t-shirt like this to someone if it's personalized with both the person's number and their sport. And well, you'll see what I mean in just a minute. I just got my first word in. I was thinking maybe $20, but someone else said maybe $25 or $30, depending on how much the rhinestones cost and that kind of thing. So let's get started on how to make this. But before we do, I do want to show you one more thing. Look at this picture. This was cut out of our flock that we use. Now the back is not sticky, but I sprayed it with a little bit of Elmer's Craft Bond. It comes in a spray. It's a spray adhesive. I got it from, I think, Joann's. After I cut the holes out of my piece, I put it down into a little box so the spray wouldn't get everywhere, and I gently just sprayed the back so that I could use it. And do know that these templates that we cut are reusable again and again and again and again. So, okay, let's get started. So here we are up here in Silhouette Business Edition, and I'm going to do the baseball one again. So I'm going to come over to the font or the text tool on the left, click on that, and then come over to my mat, and I'm going to type in baseball, and it just comes in at Arial, I think it is. So I'm going to highlight it, make sure it all gets highlighted, and I'm going to come over to the right to this text tool, open the text style panel, click on that to open it, and I'm going to look for a text or a font that I downloaded recently called Brandball, and I got it free from dafont.com. I just thought of something. We probably can't sell these shirts because it's just for personal use only. You'll have to check with the person who developed Brandball and see what you have to do to be able to use it for commercial use. I just thought of that. Anyway, there are other texts that you can use, I'm sure. So I'm going to use Brandball though. And there it is. It comes in like that. And I'm going to make it larger because it's going to be on the front of a t-shirt. And I usually like to make them about 8 inches wide. So I am going to make this about 8 inches wide. But before I do that, I'm going to ungroup it. And I'm going to move the B over so it's touching the A. But not only that, I'm going to click, well, I'll have to do that in a minute. I could release the compound path, I think. Yeah, and that would let me move this part alone. See this part? Because I want it also to be touching. If I didn't release the compound path, there is another way to do it. But what I did was I came up here to Object, and I clicked on Release Compound Path. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight everything, and I'm going to right click, and I'm going to weld. And just like in Design Space, that makes it so that all the letters are touching and there are no cut lines in between them. Let me undo this for a second so I can show you what it looked like before I welded it. Let me use this tool up here to drag it and get way close in. Now you can see right here at this L, this would be a cut. So the E and the L would be cut apart. The S and the E would not be one continuous thing. There would be a cut line here. The same with the A. So what I'm doing then is I'm simply moving these together, and it looks like I want to move the S, so I'm glad I zoomed in over a little bit, looking to see how everything is touching. And this is still good, but I think I'll move it just a tiny bit. Okay, so now I can simply come up here to where this box is, these two boxes, and that means select all. So I can select everything like that, right click and say weld. And now you'll notice there are no cut lines between these letters. Same way we do it in Cricut Design Space. So let me scroll back out by holding my Control and the minus key on my keyboard. And maybe not quite that far. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the swirly thing that we can get. Now, if we were working in Cricut Design Space, we would have to open Babel Map to find that. But in Silhouette Studio, Business Edition, I'm not sure if you have to have that. I'll just say Silhouette Studio from now on. I'm working in Business Edition. If yours doesn't have this, you might want to upgrade. So I'm going to come up here. This is the textile. The second one shows the glyphs. Click on that, and as long as I have the font selected that I'm using right here, it'll show the glyphs for that font. So I need to type in brand ball, and it says for personal use only. So you will need to contact the person that created this to see how you could use this font to sell things. And I'm just going to click on one of these. It doesn't matter which one. Double click on it, and it comes in up here at the top. Whoopsie. I need to get this tool and bring it down. And I can X out that box. So what I want to do is I want to stretch this because I want it to go from this side of the B all the way to the L. So I'm going to start stretching it a bit. And I also want it to be fatter. So I'm stretching down. And I can use this and stretch it like that. But while I'm doing this, what I'm being conscious of is how much space there is between this text here and this swoosh. Because I want there to be enough space so that my rhinestones will fit nicely. So I'm stretching it down. Okay. Do you see how that's coming further apart? And that looks pretty good to me. Maybe a little tiny bit far. I'm not exactly sure. I'd have to play with it. So now look, when this goes to cut, do you see this cut line between the L and the swoosh? We don't want that. So once again, we're going to highlight everything, and we're going to right click and say weld. And now there's no longer that cut mark. Okay, I'm going to zoom back out, and I can use the Control and the minus key on my keyboard, or I can come up here to the magnifying glass. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to make a copy of this. So I'm going to hold down my Alt key on my keyboard and just drag a copy away. And I think I'll do that twice just to have them over here for safekeeping. Okay, so now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do an offset. And I always use, at least for right now, the SS10 size rhinestones. So I know what my offsets should be. So watch here. I'm going to click on this and click on offset. And remember how it automatically comes up at 0.125 For my rhinestones, the 10SS, I want the size to be 0.17, and I'll say apply. All right, so now all I'm going to do is I'm going to drag this part of baseball out, and I can just delete it. And I'm going to look and see if there's anything, in here I would like to delete that I don't really feel needs to be cut out. And maybe it's this little bit right here. So the way I can get rid of that is to double click, and that brings up the node editor. Look over here on the left hand side. Okay. Now when I'm deleting nodes, let me move this over. And let me scroll in for you. Okay, when I'm deleting nodes, these little boxes are known as nodes. I can delete one at a time, click on it, right click and delete, and it got rid of one of them. Or if there's a whole slew of them in here I want to get rid of at the same time, again I need to get on the node editor. See this little thing over here, and I just double click to get there. I can hold down my shift key and draw a box around that, and that selects all of that right there at one time, and I can delete. Okay, now when I'm looking at this, I'm thinking about how my rhinestones take up space and wondering whether this will be good right here. I think that might be a little bit of a hard place for my rhinestones to get at, so I'm going to click on one of these nodes and just say delete, delete point. And do you see what that does? It makes it so there's just one swoop there. Let's see if there are any other places that look like they could be a problem. Let's click on this. And I think I'll delete this node and see what happens. Delete this point. All right, so then it's just going to come way out here, and that might be easier. Oh gosh, I'm not sure about this. I'm a little worried about this. I should have dragged that down further because there's not much space for rhinestones to go right here and rhinestones to go right there. But you know what? I have a remedy for that. Instead of going back right now, if I was really doing this for a project, I probably would go back and start all over. Remember when I manipulated this thing? I should have brought it down further. But what I can do now is I'm going to zoom back out, and I'm going to highlight this, and I'm going to come down to the little arrow down here on the very right that allows me to pop out some more tools. This one right here is the rhinestone tool. I'm going to click on that. And as I said, the rhinestone size that I use, and this is just for size reference so you can see what they look like, you need to change the size here. SS stands for stone size. So mine is a 10 stone size. I'm going to change it to 10 stone size. And when I come up here, I'm going to click on the one that says edge. So there it is. It put those rhinestones all around the edge. And actually this little spot I was worried about here looks just fine to me. That ought to be just fine. So let's look at this area right here, and I'll show you how you can fix something should you ever want to. So again, I'll come up to this little thing. It reminds me of a bug. Come up to this little bug, and I'm going to scroll in here because there's a little extra space in some of this that I think maybe I could remedy by adding a rhinestone. So what I'm going to do, whoops, so undo that. Let me come back to the rhinestone tool. I'm going to go to release rhinestones. That means right now they're stuck together. I'm going to release them, and there'll be a box put around every single one of them. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of adjust these just a little bit. So I'm going to move this one over a little bit and move this one over a little bit, trying to remain with us basically the same kind of spacing, just adjusting it a little bit. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate one of these. Again, all I have to do is click on it, hold down my Alt key and drag, and I make another one. Now let's see if there's any other place that looks crazy. Let me zoom out. And okay, I think that looks pretty good. This place could be fixed a little bit too, maybe. But I think I'll leave it as it is. So now what I can do is come over here to this part and get some rhinestones. Oopsie. Okay, now I've grouped them back together. You saw that I came up here to Object and Group. And now I'm going to come over here and click on a rhinestone. For the angle, I just want standard rhinestones. And I want it on the edge. And there is what it looks like. Now I'm still a little bit concerned about this part. Maybe I'd want to add a few more. But what I can do now is just come back down here and bring back in my text. And it is as simple as that to add rhinestones. So I'm going to change the color of this maybe. Maybe I'll make it blue. Maybe I'll make it purple. Whoa. And maybe I'll change those rhinestone colors. See if I can do that to purple. I'm going to the SS. And there we go. Okay, that's kind of cute. All right, now suppose we want to put ant of number 1. So I'm going to come over here to this tool. I'm going to come over here and just type in ant of. Now it's going to make some strange, I think. Yeah, see, it's going to do that because I'm still in the brand ball font. So I'm going to leave it like that. And just type in that much of it, highlight it, and then come over here to the text tool and change it to impact maybe. And then I can type in a number 1 here, and it's ready to go. So now what I might need to do, well, I think I'll change it to a different color so I can see it easily, light color. And I'll just bring it up here. And if I want to, I can twirl it a little bit. Somebody suggested I make it kind of the shape of the swoosh. Whoops. Okay, here's the thing I've been learning. When I want to change this, I got to highlight that and make sure I stay on it. All right. Now, we don't want to have vinyl on top of our pretty vinyl. Maybe we're using glitter here. So, and you know, we can't put vinyl on top of glitter. So what we can do, however, is we can click on ant of number 1, hold down our shift key, and then grab the rest, come over here to the modify panel and go to subtract. And what that did was subtracted the word right out of the glitter vinyl, and then you would be able to just see the shirt through. So like if we came over here and we had it on a white shirt, the purple would be purple glitter, this would be rhinestones, and the white shirt would show through. So what I would do now is just go group all of it. And then if I had a silhouette machine, I would just come over here and go to send it, and then follow the instructions there. And if you need some more instructions for your silhouette machine, let me know. Okay, there are 2 more things that I want to do before I send it over to Cricut Design Space. And that is, first of all, I want to grab the layer that is the rhinestones, highlight it so it's selected, and then I'm going to come up here to Object, Convert to Path. Okay, now let me move that out of the way. Because then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab all the word baseball and get these inside parts as well. And I can just right click and group. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of this one so it doesn't confuse us. And I'm just going to send these 2 over like this. So let me put that like that. And I'll go to File, Save Selection, because that's what I have selected when I want to save, to my hard drive. And I'm going to save it as an SVG. And I'm going to save it as basketball ant. And say OK. And it already exists. I'm going to replace it. So here it is here. So now I'm going to come over to Cricut Design Space and I'm going to go to Upload, upload an image, and you can see where I've already been playing with it. Browse, and basketball ant, here it is. And it says that it has a pattern fill that's not supported, but we don't care about that. Just ignore it and say continue. It says it's very large. It's okay, and so we'll save it. All right, here it is here. I'm going to click on it to highlight it and say insert it. And notice all these bazillion little cut files over here still coming in. Those are all the little dots. Each one came in as its own layer. Okay, that could be a pain in the neck, right? So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to come over to the layers panel. Do you see the purple word basketball right here? I'm going to highlight that, hold down my shift key, and grab these other 3 purple things. Even though we grouped them over there in Silhouette Studio, they didn't come in grouped. And so what I'm going to do though is I'm going to weld them. So now they are one piece, and I should be able to move them out as one piece. All right, but let's do the next thing. Now I'm going to highlight all of the other stuff, which should just be all the black dots. Is there something purple down here? If there is something purple, I don't know why. No, it's not. All right, so I'm just going to weld all of the black dots. So it's going to take all of these cut files over here and make them into one file, or one layer. And you can see it's working up here by the green bar that's going across. So you know it's still working. And there's what we have. So now let's see, we should be able to put this right back down into there. And that is perfect. But we have to make sure we haven't resized anything yet, because this thing is way too tiny and those rhinestones really won't fit in there properly. So what we need to do then is group both of these together, group, and then come up here to the size area and open up the lock so you can change each piece or each part without the other part changing. So the width we had from Silhouette Studio, it was 9.796, and I'm going to hit enter, and it's going to make it really wonky. But then I have to change the height as well. And I need to change that to 6.102 and hit enter. And there we have it, just like that. So now I would just go to make it. And obviously the first thing it would do would be to cut out all these little teeny tiny holes. And as I said in the beginning, I can cut this out of the flock that we have. And when I do that, I just have the setting like I always do for my flock in my Explorer Air 2. I have it set on, what is it? I think Everyday Vinyl. Let me check. Turn on my machine and go continue. And select my device. Okay, so what I usually select, or what I always use for my flock, is Everyday Iron On, and it works perfectly. So I'm going to load my mat, I'm going to use my flock, and I'll be back just to show you how it turns out. Okay, I've decided to do this instead, and this is what I'm going to take over to my Cricut, or to my Cricut machine, my Air 2. But I'm a little bit concerned because I thought I made it large enough, but I'm thinking maybe it's not. Let's see, what size is it? This is the size, 8.385. Let me double check. 8.385, yeah, the width and the height. So I should have made it larger than that. I'm going to see what it looks like. I'm just going to take this Or let's see, maybe I actually could take this and I'm going to change it into a print, then cut. So I'm going to change it to a print. And then I'm going to go to make it. And so now what it's going to do, it's going to print this out for me, and then I can see how big it's going to be before I actually go on ahead and make it using my flock to make the template that I need for the rhinestones. So I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to print it. Okay, I discovered that this size would be large enough after I printed it, and you can see the picture of the print right here. So now what I need to do is I need to click on this again, and I need to change it back a cut file. So I'm just going to come up here, no fill, and it's back to a cut file. And now I can go to make it. I'm going to continue and connect to my machine. And I'm going to make it everyday iron on. And let's see, yes, I better edit it and mirror it. Okay, I'm going to cut the rhinestones first, and I'll be right back.